Okay, it looks like I'm going to be telling you this 6 Mile Creek thing in a series of videos. The last one that I did is the place to start. I'm going to go name it number 1 here in a minute, and this will be number 2. I told you about this girl that lived along the canal, half a mile maybe. She lived here, and over here was a bridge that went across the canal, and beside of it was a pipe. It was actually a catwalk, a concrete catwalk, which was a big about 3.5 feet by 3.5 feet by 3.5 feet all the way around. Concrete that went all the way across the canal. We used to climb out on that thing, dive in the water, swim, and all kinds of things. And there was a lot of alligators in there. But like I said, they used to wouldn't bother people, but they do now because people feed them all the time. They're not supposed to, but they do it anyway, especially people that move into Florida from out of town. They just don't believe that they have to pay attention to the law that says don't feed the alligators. And when you feed them, they become aggressive and they come back for food, and if you don't give it to them, they'll eat you. And that's what happened in Florida. So alligators are very dangerous, but back then they weren't. But still, you know, they were starting to swim up to us when we would be out there swimming, and weird things would happen. And of course, a lot of other people swam there, and they had their things where there was always a girl that would go off under the bridge with a group of guys, and that's something that Frank just couldn't wait to murder somebody for. One night, I was walking across that catwalk, because I used to go out there at night sometimes just to, you know, relax and be alone, because nobody would swim at night. But first I need to tell you another story about alligators. There's a technique that they do, and I've actually seen this happen up at Florida State Park. If a raccoon is walking, or another mammal walking across a limb in a tree, and the tree goes out over the water, the alligator will quietly swim up underneath the limb of the tree and do like a death roll and slam his tail and his head. I don't know what he does, but it ends up sounding like an explosion. And water goes everywhere, and it's really, really scary. It's so scary that what generally happens is the animal will freak out, jump up, and end up falling in the water, and the alligator eats them. Well, when this night I'm walking across this thing, I see somebody on the other side, and somebody kind of followed me out there. Turns out it was Frank and the Anglins, but I wasn't paying attention, and I didn't know if it was them yet or not. Anyway, you know that story. But I got about 3/4 of the way across, or maybe a little more than half, and all of a sudden this big explosion comes out from underneath the pipe, and the pipe's about maybe 10 feet off the water. The water goes all up both sides, and it scared me so bad. It's such a surprise that I almost jumped in the water. That was the first thought, was jump, and I forced myself to lay down and grab a hold of the concrete so that I wouldn't fall in the water, because I kept thinking that's got to be an alligator. That's the only, unless somebody threw a bomb under there. That's what it sounded like. Somebody threw a hand grenade in there, or a bomb of some kind. And that was really scary. That wasn't the same night that I'm telling you about the Anglin brothers. That was like one night, and then the Anglin brother thing happens the next night. I go out there and I'm walking across, and now I'm kind of looking to see if I see an alligator under there. I'm just going to lay down and see if he does his little explosion thing, and then I'll go on. But I'm walking across, and you have John's on the other side. Frank and Clarence are behind me. I think Clarence was on the bridge, and Frank was behind me. So I get about the same place where the alligator was at, and here comes John. And he always had this determined look. He's going to tell Frank. You could just see him telling Frank, "Oh, I'll take care of him, don't worry." He's got to show his girlfriend Frank that he can do everything, and that Frank wants done. When he got up close enough to hear me, within earshot, as they say, and I used my vulgar language that he understood quite well, and I told him, "There's an alligator under here, a big one." So I told him, "I'm a wrestler. You really want to fight with me on this pipe?" And he just stood there and looked at me, and I started walking at him. I said, "Walk by me, or else take a chance going swimming, because we're going in. You know that's going to happen." and he walked by me and went across. I think he had, you know, it was a long walk across. He had time to think of, gee, let me see, what am I going to tell Frank? And I walked down to the other end, and they started to walk down there, I guess, together or something. I don't know. And I ended up going back, got my car, and went home. That's a 6 Mile Creek story for today. The next one I'm going to tell you, because these guys haunted this area along with Buffalo Estates and Minnehaha Street, anywhere they could. There's other places. One I want to tell you another one about is where a friend of mine and I were working in an area there, picking up garbage or picking up scrap metal, and these guys showed up. But you know, I moved there from Buffalo Estates when I was I think 13, 14, maybe 12, 13, 14, and these guys were hiding in the woods at the back of our property, and evidently they were torturing and killing people there because they had an area that was all worn out that you could see. That's where they were staying. That's the kind of things that they did. But anyway, I'll tell you more on that tomorrow.